Welcome to Community Living Out Loud, brought to you by Community Living Mississauga. I'm your host, Peter Reynolds. On this podcast, we celebrate the lives of people who have an intellectual disability and the incredible work being done to advocate for them and their families. Through conversations with experts, advocates, and individuals with lived experiences, we hope to inspire and educate listeners on the importance of building strong, supportive communities. Let's get loud. While we may not believe it at 7 a.m. when our alarm goes off, having a job is incredibly important. It creates economic independence and builds our self-esteem. We learn new skills and contribute to society in meaningful ways. It's where we meet friends and develop lasting friendships. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the incredible value persons who have an intellectual disability bring to the workforce and the benefits they deliver to employers beyond simple altruism. And joining me today are two people who never press the snooze button when it comes to diversity and inclusion in the workplace, and that's Marissa Marr, Manager of Career Connection, Community Living Mississauga's Employment Services Department, and April McKay, Director of HR at TruEarth, an eco-friendly household product company in Canada. Marissa, April, welcome to Community Living Out Loud.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Peter.
Marissa, perhaps I can start with you. Can you tell me a little bit about your role at Community Living Mississauga?
Yeah, absolutely. So my role is overseeing our Employment Services Department Career Connection. So the primary service that we provide is working with people who have an intellectual disability on reaching their employment goals. And for the vast majority of people that we're working with, they want a paid job. They want to be working. They want to be earning their own money and doing something that they enjoy doing, right? Just like most of us do. And then on the flip side of that, in order to find those employment opportunities, we're also working with employers. So employers like TruEarth, where we're listening to what their business needs are and helping them find that right candidate for the job.
I know in your department that you say and consider employment the gold standard of inclusion. Why is that?
Well, when we're looking at employment and we support people to get those jobs, they're working just like anybody else. So they're working alongside their peers, they're working alongside their colleagues, they're making an equal wage just like everybody else in that workforce. So you really can't define inclusion any better than that, right? They are just like anybody else in that workforce. They're treated the same. They make money just like everybody else. And they're contributing to that workforce, to whatever the product going out is. So they're just like everyone else in those situations.
For those people listening and employers, in a nutshell, can you tell us why employers should hire persons who have intellectual disabilities, Marissa?
Well, I mean, in simple terms, like it just works. Right? Mm-hmm. So it just makes sense. So, in today's economy, we can appreciate that it's hard to find the right people for the job. And so when you can work with service providers like Career Connection, you're getting help to find that right match. And it just makes an employer's job easier. But then above and beyond all that, there are a ton of benefits for businesses to hire inclusively. We see employers see increased innovation. We know that they're more productive. In fact, studies that have been done say that businesses that hire inclusively are 72% more productive. We know that there's a 45% increase in workplace safety. We know that people want to frequent businesses that hire inclusively because over half the population is impacted by disability. So you want to be reflective of your community and you want to ensure that you're working with your community with what they want to see.
So April, Marissa just said it just works. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is an initiative that we started here in BC a couple of years ago. And so when we knew that we were going to open up a location in the Mississauga area, we knew right away as soon as the dust had settled and operations were running as smoothly as operations can run, that we really wanted to bring community living into this location as well, because it's been such a positive experience. So we're really excited to be part of this. And yeah, it absolutely, it works.
Take me back to that first experience of bringing someone on board, and paint a picture for me.
Okay. Well, so when we first started, it was a couple years ago, and we did not know what to expect. We didn't know what we were in for. We were very nervous just because as the employer, we take the responsibility of bringing somebody in who may have challenges that the rest of the population may not have. We wanted to really ensure the safety of this candidate and the team, especially in regards to the health and safety, because we do run machinery. And it was such a smooth transition, and it was really to the kudos of the team lead of Community Living that really kind of put our fears at ease. So, like, working with this, our very first employee, making some accommodations in regards to noise levels and just trying to find a spot on the team where he felt supported and that he was fully capable of excelling in. And it was amazing. So here in BC, we have 5 people. And now in Mississauga, we have 2. And we have a 3rd starting on July 31st. So we're excited.
It's fantastic. Marissa, I think that sounds like a fairly common feeling that employers might have, being nervous and not knowing what to expect. And can you talk about the value of working with a service provider like yourself for people that have those fears?
Yeah. And I think, anytime something new comes across someone's plate, like, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing, you're doing it properly. And that's what our job is. When we go in and we talk to employers, we want to hear about what you do. We want to hear about what you want. And we spend that time. We often will go on tours of the workplace. We'll discuss, not only just the roles and what you think you're looking for, but how does your business operate? What is your workplace culture like? And really building that connection with the employer. So we're a safe place. Ask those questions. If you're worried about something, you're unsure, like April brought up, safety in the workplace, we can speak to that. She's talked about accommodations. Most accommodations we know are costing under $500. It's even less in all of our experience. So there are easy and effective ways, and it's our job to hear your concerns and address them. And then if these things arise with candidates we put forward, there are accommodations needed, or you're not sure how to handle situations, that's what we're here for. So we're always a phone call away to be there for employers and be that go-to person if they're not sure if they're doing something right or they're unsure how to handle something. You have us by your side.
So the support is ongoing. It's not just when someone's hired, that's the end of your role.
Yeah, so we are very committed to being there from start to finish and seeing the full thing through. So we spend a lot of time, again, getting to know what our employers want, getting to know what their needs are. We support through the entire onboarding process. So any applicants that you're going to get to us are pre-screened. So if you tell us there's certain things you're looking for, we're making sure we're sending you the right match. And then we're also there if there's, any of the onboarding paperwork. We're there for job coaching supports on site. And then we're there even for the retention of the employee. So with Career Connection, even if something comes up 2 years down the road, you want them to learn a new task, but you want some support introducing it, no problem. Give us a call and we'll come right back in. So we are there alongside the employer and alongside the job seeker for as long as we can be.
That's fantastic. What are your thoughts on that, April?
Yeah. So just listening to all that, I think that I know for us here at TruEarth, but I think what other potential employers really need to understand is that there truly is this continued support. And their team came and did a walkthrough of our warehouse in Mississauga and truly got to understand potential barriers, our needs, because truly the intention of this whole program is for it to be a benefit for not only the employee, but the employer. It's not meant to cause undue hardship on the company. So for us, that was a big relief. And it truly is, it's a safe space to ask maybe those awkward questions if you're not sure about a particular candidate's abilities or barriers, challenges. And that's why it has been seamless so far. Another thing also is that what we've experienced in BC is it's not always a happy ending. We have had a couple people where it just wasn't a right fit, and we had to let them go, and then we brought in some different people that were more suited for this role, and it's okay, like it happens. It's with any other employee. If it's not a right fit, it's not a right fit.
Exactly,
and that's truly how we approach it.
Well, and I think that seems very logical. I mean, if we're treating everybody equally and you have a diverse workforce, things don't work out. There are issues, workplace issues, whether you have an intellectual disability or not. And I think that I think we talked off the top this idea of it, the benefits to the employer beyond altruism. This is not charitable work. The idea is that this is something that actually benefits the company. And I think a lot of employers might not realize that. And I know you touched on some of them, Marissa, and I thought we might just talk a little bit more about that. Some of the benefits beyond it just being a good thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you an example. And so you talk about like employee retention and loyalty. And I know from my own experience with some individuals that I've worked with and that I've spoken with that work at various industries, the managers have said that sort of commitment level and the enthusiasm when they go into their job, often is a lot higher than a lot of the other employees there. And there's an energy and it really changes the very culture of the business itself.
That's really true. What we have seen is that I know I keep referring to BC, but that's where this whole initiative started for us. We've had our first employee. He's been with us for 2 years, and it's exciting, because I know that people with disabilities tend to seek out stable and reliable work, right, when they're searching for jobs. And when they do find it, they're excited to be there. And they're typically they're not going anywhere. And absolutely, I know for us, for the culture, it's they're fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. They bring in, some really neat qualities, and it opens up the rest of the team who maybe, in their little worlds aren't exposed to people with different abilities than themselves. So it's a beautiful teaching moment as well.
Marissa, I want to talk a little bit about accommodation, just to touch on that a little bit more. And, you said that most accommodations are sort of less than $500. And can you talk just a little bit about that when it comes to the type of accommodation that might need to be met by an employer?
Yeah, it depends on the person. And again, because we're a service provider working with these job seekers in advance of them coming to you, we can speak to accommodations in advance and we can navigate those. So it's something as simple as, April said, about the noise levels. Well, are there earbuds or headphones that can be used safely in the environment? We also provide job coaching on site. So for somebody who may take a little bit longer to learn a task, outside of the training the employer provides, we can provide that additional person to augment that training for the employer. So that's an accommodation too. And again, the accommodations, they're usually quite simple. Maybe it's a different type of broom that they're using, or a different type of safety glasses that they're using, because it fits them better or helps them, see better, whatever the piece is. And we'll go about looking into what makes the most sense for that person. So these things are really, really minor things. We've also before had to take a look at, policies and procedures in that onboarding training to just utilize some more plain language. And when it comes to those accommodations, what we're also finding then is when we go back to the employer and say, I think this is going to work better, it can also then just make things better for other employees as well. Even going into a workplace and none of the items are ever going back in the right place. So they want us to train somebody on how to put all the tools back where they're supposed to be. But it's like a messy area. There's multiple employees doing it. Okay, well, how do we accommodate that? Well, why don't we have visual pictures showing, the wrench, the hammer, where everything goes alongside words? Those visual cues, those language cues for people. Now everyone's using that. And all of a sudden your workplace is tidier, which is safer. So now it's accommodations that, pretty inexpensive, print out a couple things, and now everyone's benefiting from it.
Yeah, I think of one individual I know who works at Home Depot, and talking to the manager there, when they started, it was not working out. It was going to be one of these, the fit was not right because they were constantly late or they would forget about a shift, and it was not working out. And it wasn't until they were able to sit down and realize that this individual needed a set schedule, needed a consistent schedule. Whereas when you start a job, sometimes you're working at night, sometimes you're working during the day, the weekend. This individual just needed to have set hours. And once they made that accommodation that cost nothing, that individual has now been there 5, 6+ years, never been late, never missed a day, brings enthusiasm every day to their job. And that was such a simple accommodation. And those are things that Community Living Mississauga and your team work with the employer to identify and then solve.
Yep.
Is that correct, Marissa?
Absolutely.
Can I shift a little bit? I wanted to talk from the employee side, and maybe we have individuals watching now or the parents of individuals, and they're a little bit nervous about the idea of their son or daughter going into the workforce, particularly maybe in a factory setting where safety becomes a concern. Can you talk a little bit about how you address their concerns and talk to those people watching, Marissa?
Yeah, so part of what we do is when we are meeting a new person, they get connected to a job coach. So they get connected to a person who's there to learn all about them. What are your strengths? What are your skills? What are your abilities? Where do you see yourself working? And sometimes people have no idea because they've never thought about work, and that's okay too, right? So we've all been down that path of course, you're going to be nervous your first job. You don't know what to do. And so we really work with people on doing some career exploration, on highlighting what they have to offer an employer and things that they might want to do for that. So we spend a lot of time doing that, and then even preparing them to meet those employers. We'll do resume preparation. We'll do interview preparation. So again, we're trying to ease those nerves. We're trying to support people to feel prepared and empowered to go into these situations and really advocate for themselves. And our job coaches can accompany people to interviews if they see that that's something that would benefit them. And that's our job, again, to navigate that accommodation with an employer. And then when it actually gets to work, again, our job coaches can work alongside them to augment that training. So you have that supportive person who right? That person who knows you, that person who's there if you have any questions to support you to learn how to work with your employer. And again, in looking at environments, people we support are as safe, if not safer, than their colleagues in the workplace. We would never place somebody in a workplace that was not a good fit for them. So, if we're talking about factories or warehouses, if there's heavy machinery and they're not at a point where they're prepared to use that, then they're either not going to work in that environment or they're not going to be in that environment, right? There's other jobs to do. Maybe you're not using that box compactor because you're not prepared to be trained on it. And we go over what that looks like. If you're not there yet, you're not trained, you're not going to do it, but let's work up to it. And so again, we're there to hear their concerns, but focus on all the things they can do and find that right fit. And in the end, like we've talked about before, that's where you find those longer retentions and those enhanced workplace cultures and people truly benefiting because they found the right job.
The job coach is fascinating. I don't think a lot of people realize that even existed. Was a job coach used for some of the employees with you, April?
Yeah, absolutely. Every employee we've had has had a job coach, and it's really a collaborative effort on both sides to successfully integrate each employee into the team. No different than we would anybody else who's just, who's applied off the streets. So to have that extra support is very helpful. It helps with maybe some of the managers on site who've never dealt with this type of work experience before, and how did they help manage, this new employee. So it's not only just training for these employees, it's a lot of training for us. How do we maybe de-escalate a situation that we're not accustomed to de-escalating, and really a learning opportunity for us on each employee, mm-hmm. and how to best deal with that individual person. It's really helpful, and also to have a resource. It also requires an employer to be flexible, to be open, and the willingness to work together, everybody to work together as a team. We've had, parents come in and do a walkthrough of the warehouse when there was still a little bit of trepidation, and mm-hmm. just to put their minds at ease. So it's worked really well for us. And it's nice to know that there is support for us as the employer that's just an email or a phone call away. It's good to know.
I think we need to change the podcast to the holistic, podcast, because every episode I seem to say Community Living Mississauga has a truly holistic approach to whatever they do. And would you agree with that, Marissa, when it comes to, we care about the employee, the employer, the parents, the larger community? There's so many factors that go into it, and you seem to be working with all of them.
Yeah, and that's, at the forefront of what we do. Like, we recognize that we have multiple stakeholders, and we need to respect and appreciate each and every one of them that we work with for whatever capacity. And we're so lucky to be able to do the work that we do every day and have those different inputs and experiences, because it's only helped us grow and enhance what we're doing for each and every one of them.
As we're wrapping up, Marissa, I'm wondering, or maybe we'll start with April. April, what would you say to those employers now who are on the fence? Who are, when you think about sort of, we've just come out of COVID and people have had to tighten their belts, and maybe that bottom line, it's getting, you have to make decisions. And it's getting tougher out there. What would you say to those employers who are just a bit on the fence?
I would say that not only is working with people, with the team from Community Living or whichever organization that you choose to work with, not only is it not as scary and daunting as you maybe think it is, it does wonders for your corporate culture. I was mm-hmm. talking with our operations manager in Mississauga. He's had experience with working with organizations such as Community Living in the past, and I said, "What has been your experience so far being in this new environment and with these candidates?" And I just want to read a couple things because his comments back
Sure.
were just very inspiring. So he said, it's helped us embrace diversity in the workplace and our community. He said, they're punctual, reliable, hardworking people ready to attack any new challenge. Their sincerity is much appreciated. If you need honest answers, they're happy to give them to you. And the team enjoys working alongside them, and they fit in with the team very well. So I think what maybe other employers need to maybe put their mind at ease is that it is very much a collaborative effort, and it's a good fit. And if it's not a good fit, then community living will help you find that good fit.
That's fantastic. Marissa, any final thoughts or words to employers or parents or potential employees?
I think just for, people we support or their families, just, even if you're at the time of thinking about, what's next or not, consider employment. I think everybody should be having this conversation about, what does work look like for that person, and set those goals young so that you can start working from an early age on working towards them. And then for employers, be open to have a conversation. We're just a phone call or an email away. There's no expectation. You don't have to sign a contract or anything. Just, invite us in for a conversation. We're happy to talk to you about what you do and what we do, and see if there's a right fit to move forward.
And it just works.
Just works.
Well,
it does. It just works.
I think that's a great place to end this podcast, which has absolutely been fantastic. Marissa, April, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. It's been a pleasure.
And of course, thanks to our audience. For without your continued support, we wouldn't be here. And we absolutely love to hear from you. So please be sure to leave a comment so we can hear your thoughts and know, the things that you want us to cover, because your suggestions, your comments is what drives the topics on this podcast. And of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you could always leave us a 5-star review. We would not say no to that. And like, subscribe, and share with your friends. So for our guests, Marissa and April, and everyone at Community Living Mississauga, I'm your host, Peter Reynolds. You've been listening to Community Living Out Loud. And until next time, stay loud.